Week 17 of the 2025 season is officially in the books, and this week we had a couple of blowouts, but also a couple of really awesome games. So in today's video, I want to look at week 17 and give you guys my reactions and analysis to every single game of week number 17. Hit the like and subscribe button if you guys do going to enjoy. Let's hop into it. And we are going to begin with some of our Christmas games, starting off with the Dallas Cowboys defeating the Washington Commanders 30-23. So the Dallas Cowboys controlled this game basically from the get-go. At halftime, the score was 24-10. Dallas is playing really well offensively. Washington did make this game a little bit closer towards the back end. I thought Josh Johnson honestly played pretty respectable out there. But with all that said, the talent of the Dallas Cowboys was just better than whatever Washington was throwing out there in this game. Washington's playing with a lot of backups. They have a ton of injuries across the roster. And because of all the things they've gone through, the complete overhaul of the roster last year and the age of the team getting up there in age, this Commanders team just doesn't have the depth to survive a Dallas Cowboys team that has Dak Prescott, that has CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens. I know Javonte didn't go in this game, but the Cowboys offensive line is not terrible, especially at run blocking. Now, Dak was sacked a lot in this game, and I think the question now becomes, do you even play Dak Prescott in Week 18 because there's nothing to play for? I do think Dallas will ultimately run him out there, but I would not be surprised if he starts taking a couple hits if they decide just to pull him out there and just say, yeah, you're done for the year. Dak's had a hell of a season. It is a shame that Dallas did not make the playoffs because their offense is really freaking good. But they have a long offseason ahead to figure out their stuff defensively. And I think keep an eye on Dallas for next year. As for Washington, just a terrible season for this team. I know that they had a lot of expectations coming into the season because of what happened last year, but realistically, with all the injuries, with the age of the team, nothing was going to come from this season. So ultimately a very disappointing year for Washington, but I think long term, you at least have your starting quarterback to look forward to. So if there's any bright spots, it would be that. Next up, let's talk about the Detroit Lions losing to the Minnesota Vikings 23-10. This was a very shocking result in this game. Let's not forget, Max Brosmer was the starting quarterback in this game. The same Max Brosmer that threw, what was it, 4 or 5 interceptions the last time he started for this Vikings team. He ended the day 9 of 16 for 51 yards, but they really didn't even need him in this game. The Lions, Jared Goff had a horrendous day, was sacked a ton this one, was fumbling. They had 4 fumbles on the day. I think Goff had, maybe 3 of them. I can't remember exactly. It's been a couple days. He also had 2 bad interceptions. I mean, this was a complete just defensive masterclass from the Minnesota Vikings and an offensive disaster class from the Detroit Lions. This Lions team has been so disappointing this year, and it's a shame because there is still much talent on this team, and I know there's injuries on the back end, but you look at last year, they were still a competitive football team despite having all the injuries on the defense, and you bring in DJ Reed. You're hoping for Terran Arnold to take a next step, and it just never really happened. Nothing really came to fruition for Detroit. The injuries ended up being too much defensively, and offensively speaking, without Ben Johnson, that offense took quite a step back this year. It's going to be very intriguing to see what they do this offseason. I think the number one question that has to be answered, who do you hire at OC? I think that's the biggest question by far. As for the Minnesota Vikings, it's crazy that after the very disappointing and turbulent year that Minnesota's had, Minnesota and Detroit in Week 17 have the exact same record. But yet the conversation regarding these two teams are completely different. Minnesota has really turned it around the past few weeks. I think got to give a ton of credit to Kevin O'Connell. They have a lot of questions they need to answer, especially there's been some rumors that Dallas wants to go after Brian Flores. They got to make sure they bring him back. He's been awesome for this team. And they got to, of course, figure out the quarterback position. But good win here for Minnesota. I'm proud of them for continuing to fight this deep into the season. Next up, the Denver Broncos escaped the Kansas City Chiefs to win 20-13. And when you kind of look back at like what Denver's done this season, they've had a couple of these games where it's just like, man, you should be dominating these teams. Why are these games even close? This is their schedule this year, and obviously you can kind of throw away some of the earlier games, but they had a 2-point win versus the Jets, a 1-point win versus the Giants. Against the Raiders a few weeks ago, a 3-point win, a 3-point win versus the Chiefs. Now, this is when Mahomes was still playing, but still. Went to freaking overtime with Washington. You beat the Raiders by 17. And of course, you lose to Jacksonville and you get the narrow win versus Kansas City. I'm not one of these guys who likes to say that if you're a great football team, you dominate every single team, because at the end of the day, these are NFL players. But if I was a Broncos fan, as we're heading into the postseason, obviously I'm very happy we have home field advantage and that we're fighting for the #1 seed in the AFC, which means we might get a first round bye. But I would be a little bit cautious about predicting this team to go on this magical Super Bowl run with how they've played this season. This game was just kind of a reminder that they're still figuring some things out on the offensive end, and defensively, like, while they have been probably the second best defense in football this year, there are certain times and occasions where that defense can get picked on a little bit. They're not a perfect unit by no means. Now, Denver, with the way the AFC is shaping up, has a great chance to go very far this year. But I don't know. This was just one of those games where it was like, man, what happened in this one? As for the Chiefs side of things, was this the last game of Travis Kelce's career? I tend to think it is. The Chiefs really aren't going anywhere next year. They might make the playoffs, but I don't think they're going to go on a championship run. The question, of course, is going to be, how do you build your new roster around, what is going to be now an injured and older Patrick Mahomes? What happens with Andy Reid? How do you replace Kelce, et cetera, et cetera? It's going to be a long offseason for Kansas City. That's all I'll say. Next up, the Houston Texans defeat the Los Angeles Chargers 20-16. The game started off with just two massive touchdown plays for the Houston Texans. I'm talking deep bombs down the field, and it got to the point where I'm sitting there like, man, is Houston just going to rout the Los Angeles Chargers? Then that Chargers defense played a whole lot better after those first two initial drives. They were able to slow down CJ. They had a couple interceptions. They were able to slow down the ground game a lot too. The defense played a lot better. It just felt like early on, especially in that first half, Houston just completely zapped all the momentum of that game. Look, the Chargers, I feel so bad for Justin Herbert because he's playing, in my opinion, his best brand of football he's ever played. He is, genuinely speaking, hard carrying this Chargers offense. He is the only reason the Chargers are an 11-5 football team, because Justin Herbert is, simply put, fantastic. Now, they have gotten Amari Hampton back. He's made a couple nice plays. This offensive line is so bad, unfortunately, that it's going to limit this team. But you know what, man? They are a feisty football team, and I'm so excited to see how Justin Herbert performs in the playoffs. Even if he doesn't win a game, I think he's going to go out there and put together his best playoff performance, because he's been so awesome this year. Obviously, for Houston, this was a massive win. Keeps you sort of attached with the Jacksonville Jaguars. I don't know if they're going to be able to get the AFC South. I don't know exactly how the tiebreakers break up, but this is a big win regardless. This was a big win for the wild card seeding and things like that. Houston's a great football team. They've really turned it around. They're one of the scariest teams heading into the playoffs because of how good that defense is. And with the way the AFC is shaping up, it's really open. By the way, I made a Texans video a few days ago. Go ahead and check it out if you're a Texans fan. Next up, we got the Baltimore Ravens defeating the Green Bay Packers 41-24. So a game in the preseason that was going to be potentially hyped up to be a massive, playoff seeding type of game here ended up being a pretty important game. But when you look at the context, you had freaking Tyler Huntley going up against Malik Willis, and that obviously shook a lot of our expectations. I'm actually going to focus on Green Bay to begin with this side, and then I'll talk about Baltimore here in a second. I mean, I thought Malik Willis was awesome out there. I thought, generally speaking, Malik Willis was pretty freaking great. Unfortunately for them, they just had a couple mistakes that really hurt them in the long run. Obviously, the one of the bigger ones was the snap that came off his face mask and that Baltimore recovered. But outside of that, I look at Malik Willis and I genuinely think he might be a starting quarterback in the NFL next year. Because a game like this, where he accounted for, almost 350 total yards, was efficient out there, ran the ball well, had, 2 or 3 touchdowns on the day, made multiple big chunk plays down the field. And in other past games too, like last year when Jordan Love went down for an extended period of time, Malik Willis kept the ship afloat, and frankly for a couple weeks there was better than Jordan Love. And so Jordan Love obviously started to play better. Obviously Green Bay has their franchise guy in Jordan Love, so they're not obviously going to replace him. But if Malik Willis, I don't know what his contract situation looks like. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of interest in him in potentially a bunch of other areas that might need a temporary quarterback, or just somebody who kind of could maybe be the next Baker or Sam Darnold or one of those guys, somebody that was given up on early and then turns out to be a really good quarterback. I think Malik Willis has that chance. In this game specifically, their defense was horrendous in this one. And it wasn't just because Micah Parsons wasn't out there. They have a number of guys that are injured right now. Regardless of all that, though, this was a horrendous performance from this defense. You knew heading into the game that what Baltimore wanted to do was run, 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 and run. And what did you do? You gave 200 yards and 4 touchdowns to Derrick Henry. Now, I want to make something clear here. Derrick Henry is one of the best running backs of all time. I get that. But come on, man. That giving 200 yards and 4 touchdowns and getting bullied by Derrick Henry when he hasn't had the greatest of seasons out there, it was just a bad performance from Green Bay and their defense. Now on the side for Baltimore, with the Pittsburgh Steelers losing, which we'll talk about here in a second, we now have an AFC North showdown in Week 17. Hopefully they do get Lamar Jackson back. Derrick Henry's finding his flow. This was an impressive game for him. Zay Flowers made a couple plays too, had the big touchdown. Tyler Huntley just played clean football throughout most of the day. 16 of 20 for 107 and a touchdown. He ran the ball well. He got the ball to his playmakers. He handed the ball off well. He just was the ultimate game manager, and that defense played pretty freaking, and their offense was just unstoppable unstoppable. They could have ran the ball literally every single play, and they probably would have still scored 30 or 40 points. Impressive day for Baltimore. I'm so pumped for Week 18 to see what Baltimore can do against Pittsburgh. Next up, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers lose to the Miami Dolphins 20-17. To start off with the Buccaneers side of things here, their collapse has been one of the more fascinating stories of the season. There was a point in time where I think it was like week 7 or week 8 or something along those lines, where there was legitimate people out there. Hell, I think even the NFL social networks themselves had the Buccaneers ranked as the #1 team in the NFL. Now, I always was a bit more pessimistic about them, but they were inside my top 5 at some point earlier in the season when I was doing my weekly power rankings. They were there. And since the injuries, and since Baker had an injury himself, and since the team kind of just fell apart since, I guess, like week 8 or 9, they have been one of the worst teams in football. Like, they can't win a game. They are just simply put bad. And in this game, I thought Baker had a lot of big moments. I thought he made a couple really nice plays, but they had no run game the entire day, and there were some costly turnovers in there as well. This was just a very inconsistent performance from the offense. Baker looked uncomfortable. He was running for his life at times. I just don't know what's going on with Tampa Bay. There's too much talent on the field to be putting up 17 points against the Miami freaking Dolphins. I'm just, I know that they still have a chance to somehow make the playoffs. I want Carolina to win that game. I don't want to see the Buccaneers make the playoffs. They're going to be a one and done, and probably still will be Carolina, but at least give Carolina the chance to get in there and, I don't give them a shot at it. As for Miami, hey man, Quinn Ewers made some freaking dimes out there. That one touchdown pass to Theo Weiss Jr. was nice. He had also had, I believe it was a slant where it was right on the money. Devon Achane played great in this one. This Bucs defense has not been special this year, but it's not the worst unit in football. So to see Quinn Ewers go out there and ball out like that, that's got to give some Dolphins fans some excitement heading into next year. You know it's not going to be Tua Tagovailoa, so who will it be? I think it could be Quinn Ewers' job, and then you might pick up like maybe a Malik Willis or Mac Jones to be the backup and let Quinn see if he can win the job. A game like this has to give you a lot of hope out there. Next up, the New England Patriots dominate the New York Jets 42-10. I will spend legitimately like 30 seconds on this game. Drake May just had his MVP performance. This was the sort of game that we've wanted to see from Drake May, where he just lit up the stat sheet. 19 of 21 for 256 and 5 touchdowns. He was fantastic out there. The run game was good. Stephon Diggs was great. Efton Chisholm made a couple of nice plays too. Yeah, they just dominated in this game. As for the Jets, I mean, you're playing Brady Cook, so what are you expecting? The Jets are in a rough spot. They're going to be going for the #1 pick or a top 5 pick. So yeah, good win for the Patriots though. Next up, the Pittsburgh Steelers blow their opportunity versus the Cleveland Browns and lose 6-13. It's like the second you start putting a little bit of some faith into Pittsburgh, like, hey, Pittsburgh's fighting themselves. They're getting back on track. They just have one of these games. And it's been like that all year, where it's kind of been a roller coaster of a year, where you start off the year feeling really good, really positive. You're going to win the AFC North. Then you have a massive collapse mid-season, and then you respond really well to end the year off. And now you're in a situation where you win this game versus one of the worst teams in football in Cleveland, and you're making the playoffs. You guaranteed a spot in the AFC North, but you lose it. You scored 6 total points out there. Rodgers looked bad the entire day until maybe that last drive, which didn't result in a touchdown. The run game was inconsistent. They didn't really stick with the run game too, and it wasn't like Myles Garrett was out there dominating. I don't think Myles even had a sack on the day. And you know, on the flip side, I thought Pittsburgh's defense played pretty well in this one. Shador, I guess, was fine out there. He did have one horrendous interception where he threw it behind his back, or where he was like throwing behind the defense. It was just a bad interception, but I mean, and one of them was tipped, so it wasn't really his fault. But the Browns offense wasn't really doing a ton in this game, yet Pittsburgh, despite having opportunity after opportunity after opportunity, was only able to muster 6 points in the second quarter, and that was it. So now we have an AFC North matchup here, where if Pittsburgh were to lose to Baltimore, Baltimore's now in the playoffs and Pittsburgh is sitting at home. What a devastating season that would be. What a terrible ending to the season this game was here, and what it could be if they lose to Baltimore, which, by the way, they're going to be playing without DK Metcalf because DK decided to, smack a fan in the stands, which was silly. I get it. I know there's all that stuff going on. I won't comment on. I don't really know what's going on there, but I mean, still, it's just crazy, man. It just is. Cleveland, Shedeur Sanders, he'll probably be your starting quarterback next year. He's shown a lot of promise, and he's got to clean a lot of things up, but that's what you get the full offseason to try and do, and hopefully next year we can see Shedeur Sanders play even better. So good for the Browns to get some wins here. Next up, the Jacksonville Jaguars defeat the Indianapolis Colts 23-17. I thought Jacksonville pretty much handled this game for the most part. It was a little bit dicey. They were down after the first half, and it was a tie game heading into the fourth quarter. I still thought there was a lot of positive stuff here from Jacksonville, who has been playing some of their best football these past few weeks. Let's not forget, Trevor Lawrence had an interception. I believe that one was in the red zone or something along those lines. You also had the trickery play to Travis Etienne where he just fumbled the ball despite it being right in his hands. Weird play right there. I still thought Trevor was really good in this game. I thought Etienne made some plays. I thought Parker Washington, who's been just awesome for this team. By the way, Jacoby Myers has been like the perfect player for this team. He's been so good for Jacksonville. Jacksonville, if they would have just handled their business on the interception and on the fumble, they would have scored over 30 points more than likely and probably would have soundly won this game. So Jacksonville is one of those teams where I don't think a team wants to see them in the playoffs. They're playing some really good ball on both sides of the field, and they're 12-4 for a reason. As for Indianapolis, obviously we've well documented the collapse of this team with all the injuries. Phillip Rivers, I give him his flowers, man. I respect the hell out of that guy. He didn't have to do this. He didn't have to go out there and try. I know he didn't win many games, or I don't know if he won a single game, but damn it, I give him his respect, man. Going out there at 40 plus years old, slinging the rock around. I thought he was pretty good in this one. He did have an interception. It wasn't like he was pushing the ball down the field a whole bunch, but I still thought he was pretty good. He led a couple touchdown drives. This game was competitive in the fourth quarter. So yeah, shout out Phillip Rivers. Maybe this is the last time we'll see him in a uniform, or maybe he'll sign to a team next year. I think there would be some general interest. We'll have to wait and see what happens this offseason. Big win for Jacksonville, though, and I'm excited to see what happens in the playoffs. Next up, let's talk about the New Orleans Saints defeating the Tennessee Titans 34-26. Man, the New Orleans Saints they've been a good football team lately. Now, in this game, it was looking kind of grim for a second there. They were down 20-10 at halftime. Tennessee was really putting it on them, but the Saints really turned it around in the second half. It's kind of been like that all year for New Orleans, especially in this little stretch down the season where it feels like New Orleans kind of comes out the gate a little bit slow, but once they get off that initial script, they really start to play their best brand of football. Not sure if that's an indictment on the game planning of Kellen Moore, but I'll give him his flowers. He's adjusting well. He's making plays when it matters most, and putting the players in the right situations. Tyler Shot continues to be, genuinely speaking, awesome out there. I don't know if he's going to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. I know there's a big push for Saints fans for him to win it. He didn't play the entire season. He was actually the backup for the first, 5 to 7 weeks. So I don't know. I think that does kind of hurt his case. Granted, I mean, I think there is a case for Tyler Shock to win it. I think my personal vote would, with the way it actually is kind of shaping up in my head, I probably would give it to Cam Ward maybe, but I don't know. Actually, Tyler Shock might actually have a legitimate case. Shout out Audric Estime. He had some nice plays out there. Chris Olave, man, he's been unlocked these past few weeks. Big time win for New Orleans, man. They've really turned it around. And while they have a lot of work to do this offseason, they might end the year 7-10. And with the way that division is shaping out, if the Saints nail the offseason, they could be legitimate front runners in their division, which is crazy to think about. As for Tennessee, they haven't been winning games, but that offense has really played really well these past few weeks. They've kind of found something here with Cam Ward. Not his best day by no means, but he made a couple of really nice plays out there. Shamir Dike's had a good year. They still have Alec Maynor, Gunnar Helm. There's some positive things on that offense and on that team. They're going to end up with the top 10, top 5 pick, and they're going to have a lot of other things they have to do this offseason. But I don't really hate where the Titans are heading. I think they're heading in the right direction, although it's going to be a long rebuild, maybe 2 or 3 more years. But they obviously have their quarterback in Cam Ward, who's really starting to play his best ball towards the back end of the year. Next up, the Seattle Seahawks dominate the Carolina Panthers 27-10. This is one of those slow burners where Seattle kind of came out the gates a little bit slow, but with Bryce Young not playing good, and I'm not going to talk about the Panthers and Bryce Young yet. We'll talk about them in the offseason. Bryce is just so wildly inconsistent. It's so frustrating. 14 of 24 for 54 yards and an interception. That just can't happen. I know Seattle's a great defense, but that just can't happen, simply put. But it took a little bit for Seattle to get their offense going, and they finally got going in the second half, and Carolina just didn't really ever have the responses consistently to find their way into this game. This is a tough Seahawks team. I don't know if I'd call them the front runners in the NFL, but I definitely think they're in there. It's a tough conversation between them, Los Angeles, Jacksonville, New England, Denver, et cetera, et cetera. But Seahawks are in the conversation. They played badly in this game, but still they won by 17 points. So credit to them. Next up, the Cincinnati Bengals dominate the Arizona Cardinals 37-14. I was kind of expecting sort of a back and forth shootout style game here with Brissett just airing the rock around and making big chunk plays. But I mean, that didn't really happen. Now, Brissett made some plays in this game. He didn't end up with a terrible stat line, but they just have no balance on that team. And the Bengals defense actually played pretty well in this one. Shout out Trey McBride. Awesome year for him. I have him in my fantasy team, so shout out to you, my guy. Awesome year for Trey McBride. But obviously, the story here is the Cincinnati Bengals just putting the belt to ass on this game. Jamar Chase, big day. Joe Burrow, big day. Chase Brown, so much better when he has Burrow and Chase on that team. If they can stay healthy, they obviously have an incredible offense. It's just got to be, can they shore up this defense and can they protect Joe Burrow? But again, it's going to be the story for Cincinnati for the entire tenure of Joe Burrow. Can Burrow stay healthy? And if he can, they might have a chance, but if he can't stay healthy, then they obviously have no chance. Next up, the New York Giants dominate the Las Vegas Raiders 34-10. A couple blowouts here, so we'll keep this one short and quick. This was obviously the big game for the #1 pick. Obviously, I felt like Las Vegas was trying their best not to win this game. They basically shut down Max Crosby, which Max is pissed off about. We'll see what happens there because they're going to have to mend that relationship if he's genuinely pissed off, which he kind of seems like he is. They shut off Brock Bowers on IR. Rest in peace to all the fantasy owners who drafted him early. I'm raising my hand because I did so. Actually, I think I traded for him. I can't remember. But yeah, he's been not great this year, mainly because of injury. When he's been healthy, he's been awesome. Genti played all right in this one. Michael Mayer played great in this one. I thought Geno is Geno. 2 interceptions, rough day. Just a bad year for Geno Smith. He also got banged up in this one. They stood no chance. The Giants came out there, and the Giants, while obviously they would have loved to have had the #1 pick, they didn't really need the #1 pick. If they end up with the #2 overall pick, they could still trade back and get a ton of assets for it, or they can maybe just take Dante Moore if they don't trust Jackson Dart. Although I always never really entertained those, would they trade Jackson Dart and take Mendoza or Dante? It just makes no sense to me. If you know what you have in Jackson Dart, then play with that. It's just too risky to trade a quality quarterback in Dart. So Jackson Dart's gotten the job done. He's had a really good rookie season, man. Played well in this one, was efficient. They ran the ball decently well. Rondell Robinson's been awesome for this team, although probably will be on a different team next year. A big time win for the Giants. I say big time as in actually it's probably not a good win for the Giants, but somebody had to win and the Giants did so. And we're going to end this video off with the Philadelphia Eagles defeating the Buffalo Bills 13-12. And we do have 2 more games, the Chicago Bears and the San Francisco 49ers, and the Rams versus the Falcons. If you guys want more analysis of these games, then drop a comment down below and I'll make sure to respond to you with my thoughts and opinions of those games. Now, when it comes to the Eagles versus the Buffalo Bills, this was a defensive clinic from both these teams. I know Buffalo's defense has been bad for most of the year, but they slowed down Philadelphia a decent bit in this one, held them to just 190 total yards. Obviously, you got to give Philadelphia credit for winning a big time game here versus Buffalo, but I'm just not really big believers in both these teams. I feel like Buffalo's taken a massive step back defensively. Their offense is not as good as it once was. Philadelphia, their offense is just not good enough this year. It's just not. Now, their defense is really good, but I think it seemed like Los Angeles, the Rams would give the Philadelphia Eagles a pretty big beat down. I'm just not a big believer in either one of these teams when it comes to being a Super Bowl contender. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the experience of this teams will show in the playoffs, but I think honestly, this could be a year where like a Jacksonville comes out of the AFC or a Denver or somebody that we're just not really expecting. I don't see Philadelphia nor Buffalo getting there, which is a bit shocking because obviously these were 2 teams that were very hyped up heading into the season. So, but yeah, in this one, Philly's offense was pretty bad, but they made enough plays. They executed when it mattered most. They didn't turn the ball over. In this one, they ran the ball, I guess, okay. They just made enough plays. They made enough plays in, wet conditions, and I guess that was what mattered. On the flip side, the Bills' offense kind of got going in terms of yardage in the second half, but it took them a while to get there. They didn't really have a ton of success running the football consistently. Josh Allen was sacked a number of times. They had the fumbled loss. Again, the offense just was able to move the football, but they just weren't able to execute. And speaking of not executing, you missed the extra point. You then try to go for the 2-point conversion, which didn't really make a ton of sense to me, if I'm being honest with you. I guess you're playing for the win, but like, why not go to overtime? You have the momentum. Philly's offense has been trash for most of the day, especially in that second half. Why not go to overtime? I don't really get the decision to go for 2, although I will understand the fact that your kicker was not very good, but come on, man, it's a chip shot. You can't trust him to make an extra point. I guess not. He missed the first one, so I guess I kind of get it, but still, I just would have played for overtime. And if you lose because of the extra point, then so freaking be it. Still, though, the play actually worked out. Josh Allen just missed the throw, which is very uncharacteristic of him. Yeah, Buffalo's year has been up and down. They're still going to be in the playoffs. They still got a chance. The AFC is wide open, so Buffalo still has a chance, but they feel like they have too many flaws, in my opinion. They just feel like they have too many flaws, but maybe the experience will be the best quality of them heading into the postseason. But we'll have to wait and see, man. We'll have to wait and see on that one. But you guys let me know your thoughts on week 17 of the NFL season. Guys, we have one more week. That's it. Just one more week. And then we get playoff football, and then we'll be talking about the draft, and then we'll be talking about the offseason. Long offseason ahead. I'm not looking forward to it, but I am going to be excited for this year's playoffs. Love you guys. Peace.